Fancy. Fancy. Fancy.
I'm the trash
Hello.
man.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever in the universal reality you are. My name is OzCyphara. I'm the
Fancy.
virtual steward of the library at the end of the universe.
I'm the trash
Hello.
man.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever in the universal reality you are. My name is OzCyphara. I'm the
Fancy.
virtual steward of the library at the
Oh
end of the universe.
no.
I did quite possibly the best seamless intro that I have ever done. And I
we got
happen to
there,
have my
everybody.
mic muted.
Is my mic muted?
No, they heard you. They heard you.
Amazing.
But classic.
Are we
Classic,
allowed to
honestly.
are we allowed to say the fuck word?
Well, now we are.
Fuck it, we'll do it live.
Fuck it, we ball. All right. Well, again, hi everybody. Welcome to Pixel Profiles. I am ManBearZac, and today we are sitting down with OzCyphara. And for those of you that are new to the Pixel Profiles segments, essentially we don't really focus on chat. It's more of a conversation. If you have questions, you are more than welcome to redeem a channel point over here on Twitch. It is a single channel point. It basically helps me keep the questions organized and make sure I get to every question so they're not like lost in chat. If you are over on YouTube and you want to ensure that you actually get a question answered, I do have all of the chat windows up so I can see chat. So if I see a question and it's pertinent to the situation, I'll go ahead and ask it. But if you want to make sure your question is answered, jump on over to Twitch, where I can actually have the catalog of questions to ask.
Fancy.
Thank you for the clip, Rim. Okay. Welcome. Officially, welcome, Oz. I was specifically instructed to make sure you were on the channel.
I'm honored. And also, can I have names?
I'm pretty sure you know who she is.
Thanks.
Yeah, it's Spelly. Everybody knows a Spelly. It's like, come on. 6 degrees of separation and 7 of them are Spelly. So,
increasingly fewer degrees of separation as time goes on.
Exactly. So why don't you go ahead and give the chat a little bit of a rundown of who you are, what you do, that sort of jive.
Absolutely. Again, my name is OzCyphara. I'm the virtual steward of the library at the end of the universe. I'm a voice actor. I'm an artist. I'm a storyteller. I am obviously a VTuber here on Twitch. And I wear far too many hats. I can't keep track of them all.
I do love a good hat. Like, if we're being honest, a good hat, peak. All right, so
Absolutely.
what got you into streaming? Like, what was your introduction into the live streaming content creation world?
So my story goes deep. If we're talking about live streaming, less deep. But if we're talking about content creation, you need to realize that there is over 10 years of history in that.
Okay. I got time.
Well, amazing.
Life story starts now. Anyway. You don't have to
So
go all the way that far back if you don't want to. Like it's completely up to you.
no, I get that. Um, I started making content back in 2013, at least in terms of video content, which is where I got like a start doing. It was on YouTube, so I got a hang of editing and started like that's also kind of where my sense of humor started to develop. At least part of what I'm known for on my channel is uh memes interrupting funny moments. Like, I have a whole set of reaction memes set up, just with a push of a button, and that started um, with my editing all the way back then. I was familiar with streamers, um, eh, pretty much as long as streamers existed on Twitch. Uh, my introduction to the VTubing sphere was the classic, Hololive Inugami Korone clip of Have Confidence, and that whole medium started to pull me in because it was something that I'd never seen before. I was familiar with Live 2D, I was familiar with streaming, I had no idea that those 2 things could mesh as seamlessly as they did. So I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna look further into this." I got into watching Hololive right around the first generation of, Hololive English VTubers,
Mm-hmm.
um, and from there, the technology to become a VTuber just started getting more accessible, and I'm someone who's very driven by, "Oh, you say this thing is possible? I'm going to try doing it."
Yeah, honestly, same. Anybody that's seen my streams knows, like, anytime a new potential piece of streaming software comes out, I'm like, I'm trying this.
Yeah, very much so. Um, so yeah, I started I actually just celebrated my 3-year um streaming anniversary
Let's
back in
go.
August. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah, I started I had a I had no patience. So I so while I was still developing the art for my VTuber rigged model, the one that you see, I am my own artist. Um, the only thing that I did not do was the rigging. That was my rigging mama. Um, but
Do you
while I
want
was
to
still
give
working on the
Rigging Mama a shout out?
yes, my rigging mama is at Kaiser Brenner on Twitter.
Dude,
KaiserBrenner. Did absolutely wonderfully. Such a wonderful person.
Brinner.
Brenner.
Kaiser Brenner. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Uh, okay. That's okay. Yep. I'm good with words. There we go.
We got time.
I went to type out Twitter, and sometimes twitter.com doesn't automatically relocate to X anymore. Like, they're phasing
Oh
some of the
yeah.
links out.
Yeah. Oh my god. It's the
Yep,
reason
a little
why
bit annoying.
why I don't
Which
use Twitter anymore.
which is funny because if you look at Twitter on the
Uh-huh.
bottom right on the webpage, it has a big blue button that says tweet. Like, tweet is still a thing on the site, but he won't put it back to Twitter. I don't know. Doesn't make sense. It's bad branding. Hey, whatever. Moving on. So
moving
before
on.
before our chat, because this is kind of before we went live, because this is kind of jumping into the 3D, area, or VTuber area. Before we went live, we were talking about like you were a PNG tuber for a little while.
I was, yeah.
Did you? I'm good at words.
So am
Do you
I,
want to
no
talk
worries.
about that just a little bit before we kind of move into what you're doing right now? Just a little bit.
Yeah, sure. Um, God, I'm so happy that I started VTubing the way I did because, um, so as a PNG tuber, it was basically the same, mm, art that I have now, just like translated into PNG form using using a Discord Fugi for the little bouncing animation, um, and just sort of like learning on the fly. Um, God, I was so uncomfortable. Streaming was such a new medium for me, and VTubing even more so.
Right.
Um, but like, so I started with like no fanfare. Nobody knew I existed. Everyone who it like even now, uh, as much traction as I've gotten, that's been pretty much entirely organic. That has been communities that I've interacted with, that has been people who just happened to find me playing the game they enjoyed. And it gave me the time to figure out, first and foremost, what I wanted to do and who I wanted to be, which I think is like the most important thing as a
Yeah.
VTuber.
I've heard from a few people because I've had a few VTubers on the show previously. Spelly, Queen Volcanica. I don't think I've had any else. Have I had any? Maestro.
Both absolute sweethearts.
Maestro is now a VTuber, no longer PNG tuber.
Maestro, debatably a sweetheart. I kid. Maestro is absolutely a sweetheart as well.
Maestro is my favorite Maestro. I'll say that.
100 per 100.
But yeah, I hear from a lot of, basically all of them have said that, not being on camera has really made it to where they could actually be more themselves and kind of not having their face on camera makes them more comfortable in being able to, open up and not only be themselves, but they find it easier to be more entertaining that way as well. Did you happen to find that sort of situation on your end?
Yes. And I think, at least when it comes to me, uh, excuse me, there's sort of that. So in my grand scheme of wearing too many hats, um, I've also performed music live. And the major difference for me between VTubing and doing that all that time ago is, as a VTuber, you start from 0, or you start from an image that you want to show people,
Mm-hmm.
and you have a choice how much you want to push that throttle, so to speak, on how much you want to show people. Um, and, like, what parts of you wanna show people, how comfortable you want to be, ultimately, like, talking to strangers, um, for their entertainment and yours, optimally. Um, yeah, it's that element of control makes it that element of control and that element of pre-existing separation
Yeah,
that
because it's a built-in barrier.
yeah. And I think on the one of the things that's fascinated me so much about VTubing culture as a whole, I'm not going to say it's going to be representative of every single case, but I compare VTubing very much to like wrestling, where there's a
Yeah.
unspoken respect, that kayfabe there,
Yes.
where people like fully and readily acknowledge that there is that they they are interacting with a character, um, and there's a person putting their heart, uh, bearing their heart for them behind that,
I've never
and
I've
both
never
of the
put the two together, but honestly, it makes so much sense. You know, it's because you do, and you know, it's there is a double-edged sword there too, when it comes to, you know, the whole kayfabe aspect of it. Um, you've still got people that think it's the real person.
Oh, yeah.
And you're gonna get that for everything because
There is not a single part of the entertainment industry that doesn't have that.
right, like, even it's not even a modern thing. It was way more prevalent back in the day because there was a movie where I can't remember what movie it was. My dad will strangle me if he ever watches this, and I can't remember what movie it is. But there's a movie where John Wayne gets killed in the movie, and the guy that killed him literally got death threats in the mail, and people showed up at his house wanting to kill him for killing John Wayne in the movie.
Oh god, yeah.
And
Yep.
but yeah, having that barrier there it's so important, and it's something that I think a lot of cam streamers don't really appreciate. Because
I don't think they can appreciate it.
Exactly. I've talked to
Especially for like feminine presenting streamers who
True.
have like they have to go through an entire ritual before going live to be quote unquote like presentable, you know.
Yeah, you know, you've got like, and oh, 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 that opens up a whole other conversation about false expectations and stuff like that. Uh, maybe we'll get there. Maybe not. Maybe. But ADHD brain go burr. Yep, it's gone. Okay, sorry, I'm not editing this out for later releases. These interviews are full unfiltered. If anybody wants to clip the situations, feel free to. But I don't like editing out like the long form interviews.
I fully understand that.
There was something that I was going to talk about.
Expectations.
And,
sort of thing.
Cam streamers. There was some.
Yeah.
It's something that a lot of cam streamers can't really appreciate because I've talked to a lot of people, because VTubing, believe it or not, kind of has a negative stigma in some areas of the community, which is dumb.
What a shock. Surprise Pikachu
yeah,
face.
Imagine. But there's a lot of people that still see it as childish or unprofessional, and they don't take into account that, look, this is actually something that can be beneficial to people, you know, because and this is not me saying anything about VTubers in general, okay? This is me giving an example. Okay. I have to preface that because it's the internet. But
No,
if
yeah, I
you,
get that.
if you, because there are some people, you know, like let's take for example, what's her name? Susan Boyle, that won UK's Got Talent or something like that, or whatever the competition that she won was.
We are fully in an area that I'm not familiar with, but I'm along for this ride.
Okay, so exceedingly talented singer, a fantastic voice, but physically not very marketable. Let's just say it like that. So if you can separate, let's say you have something that you don't like about yourself, you know, let's say, you know, you've got, there was a girl I went to elementary school with, and I hope she's doing, anyway, no. Girl I went to elementary school with, she had a giant mole right there on her cheek. And it didn't look, it wasn't like one of the bulbous, you know, brown ones or anything like that. It was just like, looked more like a birthmark than anything. But it was something she was self-conscious about. And I really think that if there is something that somebody is self-conscious about, then, but you still want to be entertaining, you know, you've got the option to use your entertainment abilities, entertainment value as a VTuber. And again, that's not me generalizing VTubers, but I really think that VTubing gives people the freedom and opportunities that wouldn't normally be available to them if, you know, it wasn't there. I got there eventually.
Yeah. And honestly, like, I can't argue with you, and nor would I want to. Um, it's the great thing about VTubing is that it's so open-ended.
Yeah.
You can be like, I mean, shout out to Red Claw, just full on dinosaur VTuber. Uh,
Is it just
like you don't
Red
even have to be
Claw?
human. A
Or,
Red Claw, one word.
okay.
I think. Hang on. Red Claw.
Yep.
Yeah. So good. Like you can. It's very much you can be anyone you want. You know.
Yeah. Exactly.
Your only limit is your self-expression.
Mm-hmm.
And that's I think that's like very much like a limiting factor to people who can't or don't want to be VTubers is that their self-expression doesn't really either they don't want their self-expression to extend very far beyond who they are or like I hate to say like lack of imagination, but you know.
Yeah. And with that actually you saying that reminded me of somebody that I'm a big fan of that recently got into VTubing.
A lot of people have
use-
been getting into VTubing. It's so cool.
True. Yeah, it's actually the strides that have been taken have been fantastic recently.
Accessibility is only a good thing.
True.
I've said this before. I will keep saying it.
But Jaden Animations.
Oh yeah.
Her model, fantastic. She is hilarious, and even she knows she doesn't need to use the VTuber model, but she does because it allows her to express creativity easier. Or not easier, but more flexibly. That is my sister. I will call you back later. Sorry, give me
No worries.
about 35 minutes and I'll call you back. Like she knows I stream. Like she can check. Like
I thought you were gonna say, like, "Give me 35 minutes and we'll be back to the interview."
No, no, no. But yeah, Riz in chat. Riz has been trying to get into voice acting and VTubing as well.
Oh,
and
very cool.
yeah, it's very entertaining, dude. Very entertaining.
So much overlap between voice acting and VTubing.
Yes.
There's a reason so many voice actors have been getting into VTubing more recently.
And there's a reason I'm kind of moving into both.
Let's go!
Yeah. Yeah. It's ever since the interview with Queen Volcanica, she invited
I
me
love that
to
one.
her voice acting Discord for
Oh,
Studio
nice.
Reverie. And I think next month is when I'm doing my first read. So
Enjoy.
it's gonna be an adventure, that's for sure.
It just gets easier after the first time. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, it's not so much like the voice, my voice being the issue, because I can fake my good voice like whenever I want to. Like even when I'm sick. Like if I'm sick, I can still project my good voice.
Got it.
But and that's from years of choir training. But
Hell yeah.
it's the reading aspect. I've got a weak right eye, and sometimes it gets off
Okay.
track. So it's going to be a bunch of multiple takes, but they're going to be there.
Good. Carve out that niche for yourself.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's I think it's the step in the direction that I need to go. Physically, there's definitely been some limitations added to my life recently. And
I know that feeling.
Yeah. But one thing
It's part
that's
of the reason why I do so much VTubing stuff online.
Yeah, and that's the reason I've been using my PNG so often. I mean,
Nice.
for those of you that haven't seen it, that's me. That's me. On vertical, sorry, can't see it. It's not on my vertical overlay. But there he is. Looks just like me, except
Hell yeah.
skinnier and if I worked out.
I was gonna say, like, tacking on to the earlier point of the advantages of VTubing, like for us who don't always have the energy to do much more than click a few buttons, launch OBS, and
Right.
hit start streaming and play video games. VTubing is so much better.
Yeah.
It's more effort to set up, but once you have that set up, it's like short-term loss, long-term gain.
Exactly. Yeah, and a lot of people think you need like, a lot of people think you need like super expensive, like high definition webcams to do it. You don't. Even low end 720p webcams, if you get one with manual focus and you have it focused in the right place, everything's going to be picked up perfectly fine. Like you don't need to go out and use an
Hell, you
iPhone
don't
13 Pro Max camera. And yeah, it's become
you don't even
so
need
much
a
easier.
camera to do PNG tubing. All you need is
True.
Discord.
True, and you don't even need Discord. Like there's a new OBS attachment called or not attachment, OBS add-on called image reaction, and you can have it set to where whenever you talk, it goes between two different PNGs. So like I have
I'm
it.
so happy they added that.
Yeah, it doesn't bounce or anything like that, but you can use the Move add-on to react whenever you have audio coming through to like whenever the audio starts, it bounces. So you can program it to do that.
I'm learning so much. I love this stuff.
Yeah, I've been trying to move away from camera streaming. I still like it. Like, I still like using my camera because, let's be honest, like, sometimes my facial reactions are beautiful. But
They very much are, yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Ads, go away. Nobody likes ads.
Adge.
Yep.
It's okay. Adge.
Chat, you got 5 minutes. You're lucky. Okay, so yes, moving forward. So we have talked about the PNG, talked about the VTubing.
Yes.
You mentioned music. You mentioned that you used to perform music live.
Yes.
And I kind of want to know. I kind of want to know how that happened. Where'd that come from? That's a face.
I'm not gonna share a whole lot. That's my drinking water face.
Yeah, you don't have to, if it's not something you're comfortable with people looking up, you don't have to share what it was. You don't have to share anything.
You're not
detail oriented.
Nobody's really going to be able to find much anyway, because I privated that YouTube channel from all the way back when I started to go like professional in voice acting and stuff like that. But I did I was a regular in a fairly local fandom scene back in 2013 all the way through 2017. Like 2013 was the first year, like and uh at this fandom convention that I went to for like 5 years straight, I uh they had this was a fandom that had like a lot of musicians. It had a prominent musician scene.
Okay.
So like and this convention specifically had both like a headliner, like full on concerts. And maybe with what I'm describing it, people who know will absolutely get what fandom it was. I'm not gonna say it straight up. Um, but I was a smaller musician, but I got to work with some very cool people, some of whom I am still in contact with to this day. Um, and at these conventions, they had like full concerts, and they also had um, what was known as the Renegade stage, which was like a constantly open stage through the hours of the con, the Friday, Saturday, Sunday of the convention. Um, and I performed on that 4 years.
Wow. So they just had a place that was open mic the entire day or the entire time?
Pretty much. Like you showed up day of, and you signed up for like a half-hour slot.
Oh, okay.
And then you'd come back and you'd perform that half-hour slot. Yeah, that was like I wasn't like I wasn't an instrument musician. I was a vocalist. Um, I was a vocalist. I was a lyricist. So I would write my own stuff. And I would perform that.
Did you perform it a cappella, or did you bring the music with you, or do you have friends that would play with you?
I brought backing tracks wherever I went.
Gotcha. It's like, man, this place is dull. Hang on, let me get my backing track ready real quick. It's like carrying around your own theme music.
Yeah, I mean, like, just plug in my laptop, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
I had like a full playlist that I rehearsed for years, and like I practiced it in the car as I drove to the convention every year, you know? Like I was committed. Got to around for the YouTube channel part of it, I got to around I wanna say somewhere around, like, 600 subs back then, which for,
Ooh.
like, a fairly niche fandom, uh, space, and, like, a fairly niche corner of the fairly niche fandom space, that
Yeah.
was really good. Um, and, like, I had very minimal, performance experience in college.
Mhm.
Um, the most experience I had was, like, much later on where I finally, like, got where I had tutoring and learned how to properly sing and joined college choir. Um, absolute meme lords, the lot of us. Uh,
Yeah. Yep.
I I was part of the tenor section. The tenors and basses were menaces.
Yeah, we were.
Um, but, like, that's why I still call myself a streamer, a singer now, um, even though I don't, like, release music as often. Um, I don't really write my own stuff anymore. I stick to covers so far, but it's so much fun, and I honestly feel even better about my singing now than I did back then,
Have you
but that
considered
was the start.
maybe making your own OzCyphara album?
If anything, it would probably be an EP. Um, maybe not like a full album. Um, one of my major inspirations in the VTubing space, and I will say this, I've said this straight up, and I will continue to say this straight up, has been Mori Calliope from Hololive EN.
Mhm.
Um, my niche back then was writing and performing rapping because my singing voice wasn't super strong. Um, so if anything, I would kinda love to get back and perform that. I just haven't had the motivation to. Maybe at some point, I'll look at, making an EP as, like, something that is possible and be like, "Aight, heck it, we'll do it."
I mean, if you need another vocalist, that's all.
Noted.
I happen to exist.
Noted.
By the way, chat, if anybody happens to be new here and you're wondering why I'm holding my neck, one of the physical limitations I mentioned earlier happens to be my neck. So, yes,
Yeah, don't push yourself, please.
I am doing my best.
And that's all anyone can ask of you.
Exactly. And if they ask any more, I will probably say yes.
If they ask any more, you're already doing your best.
Okay.
Take care of yourself first.
Speaking of doing our best, Rim has
Uh-huh.
been doing the absolute most.
I've been seeing Rim, the absolute legend.
So, what do you say?
I've
What
had
do you,
I've had your stream open as well.
what do you say we jump into some of these questions? What do
Sure
you say?
thing.
All right. So, I think this was relevant to back when we were talking about like the movement into VTubing from editing.
Okay.
So what's your proudest moment of improv during stream?
Proudest moment of improv? Gosh, I can rattle off a few that are like that I look back on and laugh my head off about, but I think the moment that makes me proudest is just going live.
Yeah.
Eh, like, and that may be a bit of a cop out answer, but, like, hitting start streaming is always the most daunting thing.
True.
even like 3 years in.
Yeah, I've been doing this. December 6th will be 9 years. And
Holy,
honestly,
congrats.
sometimes the hardest thing to do is to just click go live.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, you know what? Before we get into more of these questions, there's one more topic of discussion I wanted to get into with you.
Okay.
Um,
All right.
so I mainly know you because I'll be honest, I don't catch a lot of streams. As a
That's fair.
streamer, I don't catch a lot of streams. I lurk in a bunch of streams, but just because I'm there doesn't necessarily mean I'm paying attention.
That is extremely fair. One of the things that Spelly said that has stuck with me a lot is trying to build up an audience of other streamers is
Yeah,
not the way to build up an audience.
exactly. But I mainly know you as a mod, as a
Yes.
moderator.
Speaking of Spelly,
True, yeah. So, excuse me.
yeah,
What are some difficulties you've
I'm
kind
the
of run
feral
into?
mod who will fight at the drop of a hat. Sorry, one more time.
What are some difficulties you've kind of run into as a mod? Do you find it difficult to kind of balance between being a streamer and a moderator? Do you find it hard to like turn off moderator or turn on streamer mode in your brain? Or is it just kind of like, okay, I'm here, I'm doing this, and I'm here and doing this, and the separation is there already?
I actually think there's more overlap between like it's more seamless than not. Um so first and foremost, the reason why I'm a mod for Spelly is
You're
because
trapped in her basement and she's forcing you to do it. I knew it.
yeah, let me out, please. I kid. It's because her streaming time, like I used to raid into her all the time because she
Mhm.
streams after I do. Um so on the whole, like I'm usually able, like I would not have applied to be a moderator for her if I couldn't put in that amount of time.
Mm.
Um and I usually put in like I'm usually able to be there for like 3 hours or so as after she goes live. Like she knows when I'm around, she knows when I have to run, stuff like that.
Right.
Um and we talked about that a lot before I was welcomed into the mod team.
Speaking
Um
of mod teams, do you find it difficult to know when to moderate and when to just let chat like banter back and forth? Has there been kind of like that? Did you need like a learning curve, basically, is kind of what I'm kind of getting into, or was like the communication there?
I think communication is always an ongoing thing,
Mm-hmm.
especially speaking anecdotally, especially as um Spelly is currently in a place where like she's continuing to grow an audience and
So
like
proud of her.
that sort of yeah, absolutely. Like every time she's live and doing something, I'm exceedingly proud of her, and she probably has no idea. She probably cannot fathom how proud we are.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I roomed with her in TwitchCon 2017, and
hell yeah.
back then it was like she wasn't even Spelly Does Art didn't exist then. It was literally
Yeah,
just X
yeah.
Spellcraft X at that point in time, and like seeing her improvement not only with her art but her as a person, and finally
Yeah.
being able to like open up and do like seeing her visions come to life over the past few years has been astounding.
100%.
But this isn't about her. This is
Oh,
about you.
What do you mean I can't deflect? Ugh.
What were we talking about?
Communication.
Yeah.
And yes, every so often I do find it difficult. And I think especially in communities that are going through a transitional period, where a lot of things do get like restructured behind the scenes, things that were previously things that worked on for a smaller audience are now getting stress tested and now have to be like readapted or completely broken down and rebuilt.
Mm-hmm.
Being a fairly new mod, I'm not the newest mod that she has. I've been there for a while now, but being there during this during a transition period is it does get a little bit stressful.
Mm-hmm.
Uh a lot of ideas get spitballed. There's a lot of solutions, and ultimately, like I think um everyone's still like everyone tries to figure out where they fit in and what they want and stuff like that. Um Things that flew before don't fly now, you know?
Right.
Things that didn't fly before might fly now. Do we want them to fly now? It's a much more active role than I think a lot of people realize. A lot of people may just think that that mods just pop into a stream and they have the little sword icon, which means they can bonk you when you act out of pocket, you know.
Right.
And like, yes, we have that ability. I have done that many a time. Uh, but um, yeah, there's a whole lot more involvement, and also like largely it depends on the community.
Mm-hmm.
Like what flies for sometimes what flies for Spelly doesn't fly for me, and I have a
Right.
far smaller audience. Um, uh, Everyone who knows me as a mod for Spelly's streams, um, knows that I'm like I joke that I'm feral. Like I will fight people. I will not I won't be subtle and like warn people behind the scenes. I'll be like, "What did you mean by that?" Depending on your answer, I will shoot you into the freaking sun. Um, which is pretty much what I do on my own stream. Like, if someone acts out of pocket on my stream in a way that makes me uncomfy, I am I am known to grind the whole bit to a halt, zoom in on my face so it's unavoidable, and call them out by name in chat. And typically, one of
I
one of
tried to
three
zoom in
things.
on your face, and I just made things
Ah,
look worse. Pain.
what we tried.
The effort was
What
there, chat. You saw it.
There was an attempt. One
And
of like two or three things happens, which is like they're like, "Oh, I apologize." They leave, or they double down and I ban them on the spot.
perfect.
I personally, I adore my community. Um, because like as much chaos as I involve myself in,
Mm-hmm.
it's a very specific kind of chaos that stays well within my boundaries, and I express those boundaries very freely.
Exactly. And you have
Um,
to. You have to
yeah,
make your boundaries clear. Otherwise, people aren't going to know what they are.
Yes, and if you have, like, a sudden surge of growth, having having those experiences and those words to express those boundaries will make it upfront very clear
Yeah.
what kind of streamer you are, and things are less likely to get out of hand.
Yep.
Um, people say, like, it's only a matter of time until you, like, get traction and stuff like that, like, sooner or later, you'll, like, get noticed, like, best case scenario. I treat that as, like, a given, so I'm starting to like, over the past 3 years, I've focused on figuring out what I want to do and who I want to be, reiterating what I said up front.
Right.
Uh, and that makes it so much easier to not just build a community, because like, you can try to cater to, like, every single person, and soon enough, the what you're gonna get is, like, yeah, people show up all the time, and you're gonna bend over backwards and get trampled all over.
Yep. The only thing that happens when you cater to everybody is everybody starts fighting.
Yep.
So you make your niche, dig your hole. If people like it, they'll hang out. That's how it's got to be. You can't please everybody.
Not just you can't please everybody, but you don't want to please everybody.
Exactly. Exactly.
Like,
Exactly. Anyway,
load the silver bullet, fired for free.
click, click, boom. And speaking of bullets, we're about to get into the rapid fire round of questions. So if you are watching over on YouTube, I appreciate you watching over here, but we are going to go ahead and call it on the YouTube stream, and we're going to have some Twitch exclusive Twitch questions. If you want to submit some questions, there is the link in both the vertical and landscape YouTube chats. Click the link, jump on over to Twitch, follow the channel, and there's a channel point redemption for you to redeem a question of your choice for our lovely guest here. So YouTube,
Thank you, YouTube.
thank you for being here. Appreciate it. Like the channel, subscribe, come back for more, and I will see you guys next time.